Good evening. My name is Lucy Commoner, and I am the head of conservation here at the Cooper-Hewitt, and also the organizing curator of the exhibition Multiple Choice from Sample to Product. On behalf of the museum, I would like to welcome you to the Cooper-Hewitt National Design Museum, and thank you for joining us for this event in conjunction with the opening of the exhibition, which is just outside of these doors. I would also like to acknowledge the generous donors who made the exhibition possible: the Kobe Foundation, the Getty Foundation, and the Smithsonian Women's Committee. The exhibition, which is drawn from the collections of the Cooper-Hewitt and the Smithsonian Institution libraries, explores sample books and other sampling formats from the 14th through the 20th centuries. These objects are tied together by their common function, that is, to record, market, and disseminate design ideas in a pre-digital era. They are the material records of design alternatives in many areas of the decorative arts, such as textiles, wall coverings, ceramics, and as such provide an annotated view into the technologies, tastes, and color sensibilities of other eras. In counterpoint to the exhibition, tonight's program will address the marketing of design in the 21st century and open up the question of what form of material legacy might be left behind. We are very pleased to have as our moderator tonight Julie Lasky, who is the editor-in-chief of ID Magazine, the award-winning magazine of international design. Previously, she was the editor-in-chief of Interiors Magazine. She is a widely published writer and critic and has contributed to the New York Times, Metropolis, Dwell, Architecture, Slate, Surface, The National Scholar, and NPR. She is the author of 2 books: Borrowed Design, Use and Abuse of Historical Form, which was written with Stephen Heller, and Some People Can't Surf, The Graphic Design of Art Chantry. In 1995 through 96, she was a National Arts Journalism Program Fellow at the Medill School of Journalism at Northwestern University. And in 1997, she was the recipient of the Richard J. Margolis Award for Nonfiction Writing. Since 2001, Julie Lasky has been an adjunct faculty member of the MFA Design program at the School of Visual Arts, where she teaches a magazine workshop. Now I will turn over the program to Julie Lasky.
Thank you, Lucy. Marketing is a really big, broad term, and I realize I use it just about every day without really thinking about it. So it was nice in preparing for this presentation to have a chance to reflect on some of its dimensions. To me, marketing means bridging the gap between an artistic ideal, of course, what the artist or designer wants to produce, and then its material reality, what the manufacturer, in fact, puts out. But of course, after that comes a really big problem and challenge. And that's how you bridge the distance to the consumer, who has all sorts of hopes and desires about what that product will do, whether it's to adorn a wall or carpet a floor or furnish a room, and of course, many other things. It's about crossing the distance between the producer and the consumer without anything getting lost or broken along the way. And that's what we're going to be talking about tonight, not in such an abstract way, but let me, without ado, just introduce the panelists. Since the first line of activity in marketing is putting out a meaningful name, I'm going to introduce and talk a little bit about their companies as well as their representatives. First, we have Design Within Reach represented here. Design Within Reach was founded several years ago by Rob Forbes to do exactly what its name suggested, to put products that used to take months to order and only through professional intermediaries to take those products and put them directly into the hands of the consumer. And here, representing Design Within Reach is Ilsook, who's the director of marketing. She's only been there for 10 months. Before that, she worked for Lean Rosé and other boutique furniture companies. Before that, she tells me she worked in biotech, and I'm very curious to know perhaps more about how marketing for biotech translates into our industry, because I think that would be fascinating. She's an art history graduate from Berkeley, she tells me, and she's currently working for Jennifer Morla, who couldn't be here tonight. Jennifer is the Vice President of Marketing and Creative at Design Within Reach, but she's also an extremely respected graphic designer whose work I've known for years, and she crossed over from the world of design into the world of in-house company work, so perhaps Ilsook could also talk about what it's like working with a designer as your boss. We also have here a representative from Maharam, Maharam being a 4-generation family-owned textile company, and the name there represents the family that's owned it all these years. Annette Schaich. Annette, I know how to say your name, and you even gave the pronunciation for it. Schaich. Is that good? All right. Joined Maharam in 2000 as Vice President of Marketing. She oversees communications, product management, alliances, markets, showrooms, trade shows, and the development of Maharam Plus, a consumer product initiative to be launched next year. She will be talking a little bit about that in her presentation, and we will all discuss it some. Prior to Maharam, Annette worked for Knoll International in Germany and was a product manager of Knoll Studio US for 5 years. She asked me not to mention her educational background, so I'm going to make it very brief. She has a diploma in international studies from a university in Paris and a bachelor's degree in international business from the University of Reutlingen in Germany. And third, Michael Hendrix is co-founder of Tricycle, and I'm going to leave it to Michael to explain what Tricycle has to do with what he does. He serves as the Chief Brand Officer and Creative Director, so it's also his company he founded in 2002. Now, Tricycle is a sustainable design company that works with interior surface manufacturers to cut waste in product development and merchandising. It took a little while to figure out what that meant, and when you find out, it's fascinating. He's going to tell you about what exactly that means. He began the company with a friend in 2002, as mentioned, and it has since grown to 37 employees on 2 continents. Among its many honors, Tricycle was a 2006 recipient of an IDA Gold Award, which is the one that Business Week writes about, a really, really important industrial design award for those who don't know it. And that award came for innovation and eco-design. He was also a 2006 nominee for the National Design Award for Corporate Achievement, which is bestowed by this very institution and is indeed a very high honor. He is an adjunct design professor at the University of Tennessee in Chattanooga, and his background is in graphic design, which he's been practicing since 1994 in advertising and design marketing firms in Chattanooga. He finally posts regularly to tricycleinc.com. I wanted to say that because it's really worth reading his blog. After you listen to him, log on tricycleinc.com, where he shares his thoughts on his approach to design and sustainability. So the drill is there are going to be presentations. We're going to start with Ilsook and move to Annette and move to Michael, and they're going to just kind of come up there. So this is last. You're going to see me for a while. And let me introduce for her presentation, Ilsook Bax. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie, for that lovely introduction. And first, I'd like to say that Jennifer sends her sincerest regrets for not being able to join us here tonight. And let me tell you a little bit about Design Within Reach. Who we are. Here we are. As Julie mentioned, Design Within Reach started when founder Rob Ford tried to furnish his apartment with mid-century classics he'd come to appreciate while living in London. And he discovered works of designers like Saarinen, Eames, and Bertoia were out of reach of anyone who didn't know the secret handshake and have the patience of months to wait for delivery. And he thought that there had to be a better way, and so in '99, he bought 20 containers of product, mailed out a catalog, and just basically waited for the phone to ring. It didn't for 24 hours, is the story, and they realized that the nighttime answering machine had been accidentally left off, and the rest, they say, is history. So in addition to bringing design within reach, we believe in bringing designers also within reach. And we're not talking about putting them on a pedestal like celebrities, rock star designers. But the designers that we celebrate are the hardworking people who are finding inspiring ways to solve problems. And in this way, we're really the curator of sorts, dedicated to accurately presenting the people and the stories that make the items that we sell so unique. Another piece of junk mail. Well, that's not us. The books we send, of course, for selling, but they're also about education and appreciating design. Many people had their first glimpse of an Eames lounge chair when they opened the DWR catalog in '99, and that education has continued over the last 8 years. More than just a sales tool, our books are filled with archival photographs, editorials, interviews, biographies. Catalog has become really a favorite resource for the design community, from students to architects, and in other words, just people like you. This fact was nicely illustrated by Sean Yu, the designer who created our Matera bedroom collection, and he shared with us that when he was a student, he didn't have pictures of swimsuit models on his dorm wall. He had pictures from DWR catalogs. So to Sean, we apologize that we didn't use models in our photographs. And this is a holiday mailing that we did last year. It satisfied 3 purposes. First, of course, it was a selling tool. Second, it was educational in that we really challenged the recipients to guess which fabric was designed in 1901. And third, 10 squares were perforated to be used as gift tags. And given this audience, I don't have to tell you which fabric was designed in 1901, because you all know, right? But in case you're wondering, it's the black and white flowered pattern in the top row, designed by Coleman Moser. So here we are thinking outside of the box. The stories in our books continue in email and web communications. After introducing the Jacobson, Castiglione, and Care Home, we supported the messages with emails featuring the designers, links to their bios, and descriptions of the designer's work. Juxtaposing the work of different designers is just one way that we encourage the readers to study and to really think about all the items that we sell. Castiglione's Gatto lamp, which you see here, shown next to a Sarfati chandelier, are 2 Italian designers and their works from the 1950s and 60s. In the archival photo, you see Castiglione and Marcel Brewer. Emails that we send are really just a snapshot of the information available at dwr.com. Here, customers can learn about designers by browsing the biographies of everyone from Eames to Stark. You can see on the bottom here we have showing our champagne chair contest, new studio openings, our emails, and our landing page are about everything from designers to community events. Throughout our site, our readers' design education continues as we really share the solutions that these products solve and how these items make a difference in our daily lives. Sometimes we cringe when we see the word modern used as a marketing buzzword. At DWR, modern to us really refers to a clarity of form and the pioneering use of new materials. And I think Philip Johnson said it best when he explained, to use the modern style means to take advantage of the technical achievements of our age. And in this New York Times ad, we have Castiglione's Taraxacum S2 lamp, which was done in 1960. And we juxtapose that with the Zeppelin S1 lamp, which is designed by Marcel Bonders in 2005, and the copy reads, "Illuminating the future and reflecting the past." So Wanders, of course, credits Castiglione for inspiring him to create this lamp, and the lamps were designed 45 years apart, but really both are examples of pioneering use of materials. DWR advertising celebrates the qualities of modern design, in items from the last century and this century, and especially in items that will continue to be relevant in the next century. The Emico chair is an example of this, of all 3. The Navy chair on the left was designed in 1944 and the Hudson chair in 2000, and both are built to last for 150 years. This ad shows 2 Emico chairs, and the copy says, "Tough enough to survive a torpedo blast, and tough enough, but why would you?" Our advertisements appear in the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and magazines like Food and Wine, The New Yorker, Metropolis. The variety of our placements really speak to the variety of our customers and our product assortment. Shown in this ad are the Eames LCW and the Louis Ghost, and the copy reads, "Modern for 60 years, modern beyond its years." This ad features the Rism Lounge Chair by Jens Rism, which was originally made with recycled parachute straps. And while that's no longer the case, it's still made with natural materials and is still built to last. The copy here reads, "If you bought one then, you'd have one now." Doesn't look 50-something, the Bertoia chair, designed by Harry Bertoia in 1952. And this ad features the Tulip Armchair by Saarinen, reading, "Celebrating 5 decades of everyday life on a pedestal." So here we'll talk about our studios, and authenticity is something that we're really proud to do, and elitism is really not. If you visit any of our 66 stores, actually as of today, there's 67. We just opened a second store in Las Vegas. When you visit these studios, you'll never see a "do not touch" sign. We invite our customers to come, to linger, bring their dogs, kids, join us for design events. The buildings that we inhabit are often unique, and our studio representatives, hail from design backgrounds to provide thorough and very friendly assistance. We love quotes at DWR. The designer's voice is in every vehicle we use to communicate, including studio walls, shipping boxes, marketing campaigns. Our Design Notes newsletter has featured a quote since it began, sharing the words of everyone from Corbusier to Kermit the Frog. And Kermit's quote is, "I feel strongly that the visual arts are of vast and incalculable importance. Of course, I could be prejudiced. I am a visual art." And there's a quote on our gift bag. These bags were first for DWR, just launched recently. They're about simplicity and reuse. After the festivities, you can take the cotton drawstring bag and it can be used as a carry-all. This, the Charles Eames quote, "Take your pleasure seriously." Just as we feature designers' headshots in print and online communications, they also appear on DWR studio walls. Naturally, our customers read Playboy for the articles, which is why we're proud to feature this 1961 photograph from the magazine's pages. It features Nelson, Wormley, Saarinen, Bertoia, Eames, and Rism, each sitting in a chair that they designed. In front of the photo, we position their work, each which we carry. What's next? Things are always changing at DWR, and at the end of October, we introduced Tools for Living, a new product category at Design Within Reach. The logo, which features a simple and smart design of a paperclip, speaks to exactly what Tools for Living is all about. If you go to dwr.com, you'll see the Tools for Living logo, which is the red paperclip in the upper left corner. Tools for Living landing page explains this. Further, it reads, "The secrets of these items share a smart design. Each one is unique in how it solves a problem or makes something more comfortable or easier to use. In that way, they're not just objects, but more like tools," which is introducing Tools for Living. Whether we're educating customers about iconic product from the past or introducing customers to a new collection of smart products designed today, we are Design Within Reach. Thank you.
I'm Annette Schaich with Maharam, and I think one of the major reasons why I was invited here tonight is that we use a lot of samples. I'm going to talk a little bit about the topic of sampling because this is the topic of the exhibition, and then I'll go into broader marketing topic. But Our business is to provide textiles for commercial interiors. That's our core business. It's been our business for over 50 years. And the way this business works is that we provide sample books to over 10,000 architects and designers. And drawing from those sample books, we send out about 2.5 million memo samples to the architectural world. And hopefully, going from there, they will specify our products. So that's a huge amount of sampling that we're dealing with. And those are sort of the nuts and bolts of our business, because the selling process of textiles is obviously a tactile process. And being able to handle a physical sample of a textile is very important to the customer to understand the qualities of the product. 4 years ago, we decided to put our entire library on the web. When you look at how textile samples are usually represented on the website, you can see a swatch and then there's some kind of copy next to it. And we made a very dedicated effort to do it differently and to really recreate the physical experience of opening a sample book. These are just screenshots, but you basically, when you enter the virtual library section on our site, you see a physical library representation of a physical library, and you can click on a book and it will open up and you will have an actual page. There are options to look at all the colorways of a textile, and then you can order a sample. That's actually the only goal of our library. We want to encourage people to order samples. We don't expect anybody to order a physical product based on an image on the website. Surprisingly or not surprisingly, this concept has been very successful. Over 20% of our sample orders are now coming through our website. In the past, usually a client would call and request samples or send a fax. And that process of sort of ordering products has changed quite a bit in 4 years. Just wanted to mention our collection at the moment includes probably around 500 patterns in different product categories and in a variety of 4,000 colorways. So it's a very large collection, and it's always a struggle to keep a physical library up to date at an architect's office. Wanted to talk a little bit about Maharam as a company, and I think the way we view ourselves is not necessarily we think of ourselves as a textile company. We think of ourselves as a design company. So we embrace all design disciplines in anything that we do, and we want to provide a design experience to our customers who are visual people. So for example, when you look at our showrooms, they're conceived as gallery-like spaces. They're not necessarily open to the public, but they're often at street level. Like in this example, this is our showroom in LA on Melrose Avenue. And they're very open, clean, and minimalist spaces, and this is how we present ourselves to the outside world in general, whether it's a showroom or another type of experience. In general, when you go to a textile showroom, you usually will have a sense of being overwhelmed with a huge amount of choices that you have to make. We feature only a highly edited number of products in our showroom in large pieces that clients can interact with. And then we have all our sample books available for our clients to go through and work with our sales staff. Visually, our products sell the company. Our advertising campaign features products and always in a tactile manner, so they feel approachable. If there's a weave, the weave is represented and visible. But overall, it's a representation of what the company and the design aesthetic of the company stands for. So we work with, we have our own graphic design studio that creates all our printed material, including our advertisements. But the other way to interact with our clients is through printed communications, like invitations, and they always have sort of a very specific feel of abstraction and graphic nature to them. These are our calendars that we mail out to a customer every year. The design content doesn't change, but the covers change on an annual basis. From a product point of view, we create all our products in-house. We have a design studio with 7 textile designers on hand. And they're all trained to design textiles, and we felt at this point in time it would be interesting to pair them with designers from other design disciplines. So a couple examples. In 2001, we launched our first collaboration with Hella Jongerius, the Dutch industrial designer who became very famous through her work for Droog. The way we work with them is we give them specific problems to solve. And in the case of Hella, the question was, design a textile that would look different if applied on a series of chairs around a table, but they should still look related. And her response was to design a textile that had a huge repeat, and that's the name of the collection. Another example is our partner in the fashion world, Paul Smith. We felt that he was an excellent partner for us because he has a very clean and distinct voice in the fashion world, and traditional men's fashion, but also some sort of interspersed brightness and fun. And there was a great consistency, so we felt that this was a person that we could work with on a long-term basis. I think our business is a little bit different when you look at what Design Within Reach represents. We work in a very limited small market, commercial interiors, and we have been looking at reaching out to a broader audience in the last couple of years. Just showing a few things here. This is still a textile that Paul Smith designed for us. And this year we opened a showroom location with Moroso next to Moss, or in sort of adjacent to Moss. So this is our first sort of retail presence in the United States that we really actively involved in. It's funny when you want to purchase textiles for your home in the United States. I think there's a similar dilemma to what existed before with furniture. It's a closed market. And as a consumer, you have to basically have access through a designer to be able to purchase textiles for interiors. So this is sort of our experimental lab to see how we can interact with the consumer. We're working with Design Within Reach. This project started about 1.5 years ago and came to full fruition this fall, where we really became very actively engaged and sort of reached a scale where the products were more visible than in the beginning. We see huge benefit in partnering with companies that lead the design world, because we very much believe in association and recognition through association. We also have dabbled a little bit with our own efforts in terms of accessories and consumer goods. Some of them come from the work of our graphic design studio, and funny enough, here's the memory game again. But next year, as Julie mentioned, we're taking a bigger leap, and we have decided to develop a collection that will be called Maharam Plus, and that will be an actual consumer product collection that will not be sold as a textile product. Maharam Plus, the plus in Maharam in the name stands for collaboration with a designer. So the concept behind Maharam Plus is that we develop a brief. And in the instance of the launch brief, the brief is pretty simple: design a bag that you like. And we gave the brief to several designers around the globe, and we asked them to get back to us with their ideas. And so at the moment, we're in the process of bringing all these products to market. We're working with Konstantin Gricic in Germany, Hella Jongerius in Holland, Luisa Cevese in Italy, and then our graphic design studio will also contribute some products. So for me, it's a very exciting project because it kind of ties back to my furniture history as a product manager personally. And I'm also, it was incredibly interesting to see the different results to the same problem or the same tasks. So, and that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
All right, my name is Michael Hendrix, and I'm from a company called Tricycle, and I'm fairly certain that none of you have ever heard of us at all. So I felt I needed to give you some background into why a company like mine would even exist in a very micro world. We've gone from, I don't know how many employees Design Within Reach has to Maharam to little bitty company. So the first idea is the concept of dematerialization. And what I mean by that is if you think about the way our lives have changed in the last 15 to 20 years through digitization, you realize that we've had a lot of improvements, and we've come to a point that we can make a lot of things in this world without actually physically producing it. And the concept really works well when you can preserve an experience that changed the medium. So if you think about these things I have up here, like the way you purchase something, you don't have to pull out a leather bag of gold coins and hand it across to a merchant. You have, at worst, you have to give someone a dollar bill, and at best, you can type some numbers into a computer screen and buy something. The iPod's another great example. I mean, now you can carry your whole music library in your back pocket, which is pretty cool. It's also overwhelming because I can't listen to all of it. All right, the other idea is the idea of sampling itself. And the way that we understand it at Tricycle, it's really a recurring milestone in the design process. And the design process is iterative. You're like, I like this, I don't, maybe you can switch this a little bit, yeah, no. And all along that chain, which is really becomes a system within an industry, you need samples. And we're really interested in what we call the creative product lifecycle. So what you see up here, this is what we call the creative product lifecycle, that point where or those milestones where you're making something, merchandising it, and eventually trying to make a decision about whether you like it or not. All right, so those are the two ideas. Tricycle began in 2002 with the intent to transform the way the commercial carpet industry worked. The majority of the world's carpet's made near where our company is in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And we were familiar with the industry's challenges, and we saw some technology that could help address issues. And one of those issues, for example, is landfill waste. There's about 5 billion pounds of carpet put in landfills annually in the United States. All right, so we defined ourselves by our objective rather than our design disciplines, and we have a lot of design disciplines within our company. But we create products for sampling, we design merchandising systems, and we produce digital prototypes that reduce cost, waste, and lead time to get to a final product. And we have a main product called Trike. It's a digital simulation method for evaluating designs. And like I said, we're in carpet, so that's what you're going to see. The way we do that is we create a photorealistic image, a computer-generated image of a product by combining digital components of that product. So the CAD information, the color information from the fibers, the CAM information that's actually running the tufting machines. And then we generate something that looks like the product that can be used in print or an online use. All right, so it took me 3 minutes to explain what we do. So you're probably wondering how in the world we actually market it. Because it's not a quick sell, not at all. And we don't do it by focusing on the end product. So we don't talk about Technofloor or Tufted Carpet Pro or whatever. I mean, that would be really uncool, and no one would wouldn't even be here. So we don't even actually sample the actual product. Like the samples you saw here tonight in the exhibit. Those are generally actual product samples. Some weren't, but we're sampling the sample in some sense. We're approximating it, and what we realize is the value is actually our placement in the design system and the design process. It's an artifact of a dematerialized system. And so we know that we're not going to save the world by eliminating one carpet sample at a time, but we do believe that design thinking behind the process and behind making your process green is what is changing the world today. So when you hear sustainable design, when you think of it in terms of process, and you think about the way we need to start changing the way we make things instead of the way just changing the content of what they are, that's where you see the most progress. Right. So here's an ad we did a couple of years ago, and it's focused on that process idea. It takes about a quart of oil to make a carpet sample. And I can tell you, when we first started talking about things in an ecological voice, in the design community, even as young as a company we are, there wasn't a lot of awareness. So we decided it would be good to help designers be the voice of conservation and the voice of discretion. Now, this was kind of a scary thing to do, actually, because we were saying, for every color change, there's waste. And an average, I just read the USGBC said about 3% of every project that goes on for building and interior design is waste right now. So it's kind of a big number. So every time you have to make a decision, you have to throw something away. So if there's a way to make a decision without throwing it away, and it gets you closer to where you want to be, there's a benefit. And by the way, our customers, which are the manufacturers, freaked out when we did this. Here's a trade show exhibit that we did, and it really promotes the same idea. It talks about the system of designing. And again, we're really thinking about the way that designers work. What's the process? What is the manufacturing process? Do they align? Are the manufacturers listening to the designers? Can we provide insight, etc.? Here's another trade show we did. We went punk. And we thought, well, since people are kind of freaked out about what we're saying, let's just really freak them out. And we actually got a really angry phone call from someone who we were trying to pitch at the moment. And they're like, what are you doing? Because one thing we did is we also gave out these little activist stickers for people to put on their carpet samples when they shipped them back, if they did, that said, thanks, but next time, send a trike sample. And so we got phone calls. But anyway, it all worked out good in the end, because we got a lot of excitement from the design community, which is really where we need the excitement, because we're asking people to do something very different. And in the end, the people that were really upset with us, and about a month later, understood what we were doing and embraced what we were doing, which was cool. But again, it's about preserving the experiences and changing the methods. So you see the clocks, you're saving time, or you're shortening the process. All right, and then another trade show, which seems like all we design are trade shows. It's not, but we launched a book called Reverb, and we focus on the social networking aspect of sustainable design thought and the power from that. And obviously, this is where we kind of get really far out, because I'm a designer. I'm one of the founders of the company, and I can do anything I want. So I said, we're going to launch, and we're not going to show our product at all. We won't even talk about it at NeoCon. And that was really kind of weird for everybody too, but it worked. So the book, Reverb, we had 11 contributors, interior designers, magazine editors. We asked them to write about design as a change agent when we launched this book. And this is really representative of the way we market our company. These are all, it's all marketing, but we tend to either focus on process and the process and where we fit in that process, or we partner with the other process or system. And the best way I can explain that is that there's a system to designing and there's a system of an industry. And they're not that different if you think about them in little mind maps. So we partner with people within that system, again, to really create conversation, create interest in what we do, and then hopefully push forward new ideas. So here's another trade show booth. We designed in collaboration with Gensler on behalf of the American Society of Interior Design and International Interior Design Association. And again, you can see that system that I'm talking about, where there are people within our industry that we feel like we need to be with in some form. Another thing we did is we created a design contest, and we had it co-sponsored by a trade publication and one of our customers. We challenged 4,000 designers to rethink, reuse, and upcycle old or unused carpet samples. And so we said, what, after their usefulness, what kind of object can you make out of them? And these are some of the examples of the winners from that contest. And we displayed these at NeoCon in Chicago, which is our big commercial show that Maharam is at as well. And here's another example. We were asked to participate in a fashion show for Earth Day, so we had this dress made out of our product, and it's still in our lobby. It's we like it. Anj doesn't have to wear it anymore, though. It's on a mannequin. So in closing here, I want to show you a few examples of what we actually do, so you kind of get a grasp of it. What you see, this is a small design firm in Chattanooga. It's, 3 interior designers on staff. That's their sort of resource library. That's where they have to make a decision about what product they want. What you see on the right is our product. So for different customers, we've tried to understand their culture and then build something within their culture. So there's a company called Tandis that has a program called Blink. And in that program, we created a web tool that would allow designer to recolor the products or rethread up the products online, visualize those, and then order prints of those that are color accurate, or see them in room scenes. So also a sample book. We did a concept of a product with them where the carpet swatches were just replaced with pads. The reason we did that, and the reason Tandis embraced it, is because carpet repeats are pretty large. Sometimes they can be 12 feet by 40 feet. And sample books don't do them justice anyway. So everyone understands that sample book is an order form more than an actual sample vehicle. Here's another example, Interface, who some of you might be familiar with through Interface Floor and their residential product. All of the products on their website are simulated, so you don't have actual photography of any of the products. The advantage of that is you can easily create environments to show the product. You don't have to set up, photo shoots, etc. And then because our products are tiles and they can be configured in different ways, you can manipulate them very easily. You don't have to worry about lens flare or lighting issues and shooting that product and then trying to put it into an environment for an installation. And there's a little image there that shows you the difference between the volume difference between 25 tiles and 25 trikes. And that really brings it home, especially if you're a salesperson and you have to carry those up some stairwells. Here's another example of an interactive ordering tool for one of Mohawk's brands. And this is a simple drag and drop interface. So the designers chosen a pattern already. They're just recoloring it. And then they're putting it into an environment to see whether or not they like the scale of the product, with the furnishings. And then we've wondered, what can you do? Can you actually get rid of the sample book? Could a new company launch? And we had the opportunity to brand. Someone came to us and said, I'm starting a new mill. I want you to create the brand and the sampling system. We're like, that's really cool. So this company called Node let us try it. And we actually started out without sending any products out because they actually didn't inventory any products. The whole idea was that they could just create a virtual product company and then fulfill those orders on demand if there were certain yardages. And they're still experimenting with trying to understand how to make that model work in a commercial arena because it's kind of a high-end commercial product. And it's a pretty radical idea if you're used to going to that resource library and finding something and someone's coming in with an iPod and showing you product. And so we have worked at different sample vehicles. You'll see one up there with a little green tab. There's another kind of sampling vehicle we've made for them along with our website. So we think that, the real trend in sampling, and I see in our culture right now, is really the idea of mass customization. And we all tend, because the opportunities exist now, we want to make things ours and transform them into what we want. Specifically in sampling, what we're seeing and the way we're pushing things is the idea of making your own kind of sample books on demand as an interior designer or an architect. What that allows you to do is personalize presentations or your product library to make it more effective for the way that you do things. So I don't think we can return to an era of pre-industrial craftsmanship. We're really beyond that. But we certainly live in a time when we can customize things affordably, like your Nikes or your Converse or your Scion. And you can sample them many times over without guilt because they're not actually made until you need them. So that's who Tricycle is. I guess we're the design company that makes fake samples until you're ready for a real sample. That's basically what it is. Thanks.
So, Michael, Tricycle. Why Tricycle?
Why the name?
Yeah.
It's all marketing. When we started it, we looked at a lot of different names that, in retrospect, were really obvious. And we decided we want something that felt good and that wouldn't tie us into any particular industry or practice. And Tricycle just made us all feel really good.
Isn't it the name of a Buddhist magazine?
It happens to be, yes.
Which is a good feeling thing. But another question is, you talk a lot about the world of immateriality and virtual presentations, which make all the sense in the world, and you produce the samples that you produce, the proto samples, look extremely realistic, but in a world of mass customization where you can make all sorts of adjustments and get all sorts of virtual representations of what you want, in the end, you end up with a physical product, which may not be what you had imagined. Are you dealing with that at all? Do people look at the samples and get to that next step of ordering something and then find that it's just not what they had in mind?
We try to avoid that. And what I mean is, because everybody does, but the idea is that in the creative process, there's a funnel. At the beginning, you have a lot of options, and you're narrowing those down to a choice. We're interested in being at that top layer. Eventually, you need a real sample, and there's a very practical liability reason from a manufacturing side to offer a real sample to somebody. But at the beginning, when you're trying to decide whether or not I like this combination of colors or I like this pattern, there's a lot of freedom there to not have the real product yet.
Got it. Okay. So I really actually wanted to start with the general question for all three panelists, which is perhaps implied in the presentations but not really addressed, which is, what's your biggest challenge today in marketing your company's products? Ilsook, can we start with you on that?
Sure. I think I have my own microphone. Can everyone hear me? I think the challenge for us is that obviously we're very fortunate that we have multi-channels. So we have our studios, we have our online, and we have our catalog. And what we're really trying to do is to provide a consistent message through all three channels. And they're very different. The customers online are sometimes very different than the direct mail customers, which are different than the studio customers. So to find, first of all, the relevance of how is this something our customer needs? Is this something that they want? Are we providing a service to them when we're marketing? We're not out there to just promote a product, but we're out there to really be an educational tool and to talk about the designer, to talk about the process of how they got to the solution of creating a product. So to market that consistently in all three channels, to be constantly fresh, is also a challenge. We have clients who are design enthusiasts, and they know everything about the product and what year it was made. And then we have customers who are brand new to design. So it's about keeping it fresh and interesting.
Annette?
Pretty similar. I think our biggest challenge is, I hope my presentation conveyed that we have a very distinct voice and a way of presenting ourselves to the world. To maintain that voice, but in a constantly renewed way, but also in a consistent way. When you look at how we do things. We've been very consistent in the past 10 years on how we present ourselves, how we design product, what our spaces look like. But of course, there's always the future, there's change. We're entering new markets like consumer products. So within this outreach, we want to keep consistent in our overall voice. So,
What kind of marketing strategies, Annette, are you going to use for the new consumer products division that you're, initiative that you're starting?
With us, I have to say our marketing strategy always starts with the product. I think you have to have a strong product to be able to market it, and then everything falls into place. I mean, we will definitely give it a distinct visual identity, but it will be related to what we do overall. And I should probably mention that these products, they will be bags, but they won't be made without textiles. It will be a textile product, but it will be using textiles that are meant to, that will be specifically selected for the bags. We've it's in that process, it's very easy to take what you have and make something with it, but we didn't want to take the easy road. We wanted to do something new and something different and really draw from our design philosophy in creating the new products rather than just using what is already there.
And Michael, the challenges that you described in your presentation, including this challenge of being a startup and going into a completely new area. I mean, I know different companies have worked with the problems of sampling and ordering before, but you're really taking a new direction. So given all that, what would you say if you had to pick one is the biggest?
I think trying to, I guess what I alluded to, trying to weave ourselves into the fabric that already exists.
So to speak.
Yeah, so to speak. There will never be adoption if it requires a radical change in the way people work, and the best designs fit into the way people live. So that's our challenge on the manufacturing side and the design side.
Tell me how you approach a company when you do that. What's your process of inserting yourself into the fabric, so to speak?
Well, the first is to get buy-in from the chief executive. And literally that's what we do. So we go into the top, we talk about cost savings first, we get them excited. And then it's really about partnering with each department within that company and understanding what their needs are and what their fears are. And you really have to understand the personalities of the people you're working with, because even though our industry makes the same product, they're all very different companies. They all have very different approaches to working. And so we find ourselves really befriending the product developers and the salespeople and the marketing so that we can understand what they're afraid of, what they think is going to work, and then we work with them to make our product fit.
And I'm sorry, I really don't want this whole to monopolize the conversation, but I find it so fascinating. In terms of a business model, I mean, charging for services, even when you're doing something like that, did you have to invent all of that too? Are you working like consultants, or do you work as a kind of royalty option somehow?
Yeah, we do. We've changed the model over time. When we started, we used to sell, make bulk sales of software into companies. But then there's no really, in using the word sustainability for finance, there's none in that. The sale's done, and you don't. It's not a repeat customer. So we did change to a model where there's either a license fee, or in some cases we have like a cell phone plan where the customer can opt for a certain minimum number of samples per month, and then it rolls over each month.
Thanks. Annette and Ilsook, both of your companies have made a point of working with name designers, living and dead, and have brought those names to the foreground, which is partly a marketing strategy, of course, as well as an educational strategy. But I'm wondering from both of you, are there any drawbacks in attaching yourselves to big names, say Annette, and the fact that you're dealing with people who often haven't had experience working with textiles, and also just because it's, you're knocking on the door of celebrity culture when you're doing that?
That really depends on how you approach the concept of collaboration. And as I mentioned, is that for us, the reason we collaborate with designers that are not textile designers is that we're looking for a different solution. You know, a textile designer is trained to think in a certain way, so it's beneficial for our designers to interact with designers from other disciplines, whether it's an industrial designer or a fashion designer. We've worked with graphic designers, and it gives them new ideas. And I won't deny the fact that realizing these projects takes a disproportionate amount of effort, because they're usually very challenging, either from a technical or visual point of view. But it's a great learning curve for everybody, and that's how we approach it. And we hope that the small core of people that we can work with on a continuous basis. So I don't see any drawback in an association. We believe in gains through association, and we try to associate ourselves with people that we think have a very distinct voice that we can follow over time.
And it sounds like, especially in the case with Hello Youngarius, there are repeat collaborations, so
yes,
that whatever has transpired has obviously been very positive.
I mean, to get back to the project of repeat, her answer to the question was so simple that you should really ask yourself, why has nobody else come up with this answer before? And I think it's an industrial designer's answer to a problem or an issue, and a textile designer's answer would be different. A graphic designer's answers may be different. So that's what makes these projects very interesting.
Ilsook?
I think for us it's been a pretty interesting journey working with designers. I think, of course, their name lends credibility to the company, and that part is always positive. But I think what we're trying to do now is really focus on, it's about the product and it's not about the designer. It's not about the person and how great they are and where they hang out and what their name means and what they represents, but the product is first and foremost. And of course, like I talked about earlier, the process of how they get to designing the product, how we want to focus on the need that it serves, the form, following the function is really where we want to move in that direction. So we don't believe in promoting the rock star designers, as our CEO likes to say. It's really about the product first, the education first.
And I'm going to play devil's advocate, really, but the catalogs have really nice pictures of the designers, a little piece of biographical information about them, which is great. You get a sense of who's behind them. But say one of those designers starts designing very, not such great products, say for Target. Do you feel that, they're... Well, all right, or some other manufacturer that might be, or retailer that might be, releasing them at a much lower cost. Is that, some concerns that ever come to you that there's just too much emphasis that might be tilted toward those personalities?
I think it's about the designer itself. I mean, whether they create a truly interesting piece for Target, just because the price point is $10 versus $1,000, doesn't make it any less worthwhile of a piece of product design. So, we have designers that work specifically for Design Within Reach, products that are designed especially for us, and I think the whole process of design is still a free market and open to anybody. Within Design Within Reach, no, we're not promoting them especially. We don't have designers on our covers. We don't. It's the education of the product, first and foremost.
Okay, let me say for the record that I shop at Target. I see nothing wrong with it. No, my only point had been that when you create a cult, and I deal with this a lot as a magazine editor, when you put a lot of emphasis on the personalities as opposed to the products, which is sometimes completely out of your control. And sometimes it can be a bit of a runaway train. Those personalities can go off in all sorts of different directions, do all sorts of different things. You might be, and people might say, okay, I just want to have an object by that particular person, but I can get it now for $5 instead of for $5,000. And that was the only thing I was bringing up. And I thought you answered it quite effectively. Sustainability has, of course, provided a marketing opportunity for many companies, and one of the first challenges of selling environmentally friendly design products is figuring out what to call them. I wanted to ask you, Michael, are you satisfied with terms like green and sustainable? Are you using them by default? Do you think there's anything out there that's better to describe what you're about?
I think it's about as good as it can get right now. The reason I think I like sustainability more because it is holistic. It's concerned with the green side of things, the financial side, and then the social side. There's a lot of emphasis right now. I guess NBC just had their Green Week, and I missed it. But I think it's good that there's that kind of interest on a cultural level. I mean, Al Gore winning the Nobel Peace Prize is pretty cool. But, it's good.
So it's all good if, call it green, sustainable. A number of companies, of course, are making claims for sustainability that might be a little bit spurious, and we've all seen it happening, the greenwashing that's going on out there. Is it making tougher for people like you with integrity when you're promoting products that might be sustainable? And I'm thinking about some of the things like the Emiko chair, which you were describing and showing, which is sustainable by virtue of the fact that you can drop it from the roof of a building and barely scratch it.
It's durability, not sustainability.
So that's how you're defining that, durability. But how do you convince customers of your integrity when other people are using this, those terms with so much facility in such a facile way? Mm-hmm.
Well, for us, we're pretty. I guess you could tell from the slideshow we're kind of unafraid. So we actually, when we're working on projects, we do a lot of marketing projects as well. We just want facts to back things up. We want to understand how a claim can be made, because ultimately, as the marketer for that company, if it rings hollow, if it's found out that it's false, it's far more damaging than the cool little hit you got at the beginning when everyone thought you were true. So I think it's very important to question, and get the facts that you need to make that statement true.
Any other thoughts?
Well, I think about 6-7 years ago, we took the very distinct decision not to greenwash ever. And it came at a period where we went through ISO 14001 certification, which is a business certification that looks at the environmental aspects of your business. And we like the model that ISO provides, which basically looks at what you have, what the impact of it is on the environment, and how you can reduce it. So this is how we look at products. So we look at the environmental impact of the product, and we define the reduced environmental impact of the product. And we have taken that process now into our product development process, where we set goals for reduced environmental impacts for every product that we do. I would say in the beginning, this put us at a tremendous disadvantage, because everybody said, here's my green product, but there was really no factual information behind it. But we took a very, very strong stance, and I think it has changed the way the textile industry is presenting their products. And actually the industry association is now working on a sustainable textile standard that's very much modeled on facts, and hopefully that will be out next year, and that will be the end of greenwashing. So, and by the way, we don't use the term green, we don't use the term sustainable, we use reduced environmental impact. So
that's a lot tougher to say.
And it's just because we were burnt in the beginning, because there was so much language that was thrown around, that we felt the need to create our own language.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right with that. I know that through DWR in April, we're definitely doing a sustainability message, but it's kind of a lack of, how do you want to call it? Do you want to call it green? Do you want to call it sustainability? Everybody has a different explanation of what that means, a different definition. And so when we say, like take for instance this chair, maybe 10% of it is recycled. So we could start talking about that, or we could start talking about the idea that if you own an Eames chair and ottoman, you would keep it for 3 or 4 generations, and that's some, a different type of sustainability. You talk about product that you could get, at some manufacturers where you would keep it for a year, or if you moved, there would be no way that you could move that piece with you. that fills up landfill, et cetera. We take different approaches with our catalog. Over the years, we're reducing circulation of the catalog, we're reducing the number of pages, we're using recycled paper, we're using mills that are closer to our printing facilities. We have to look at it in a lot of different ways.
As part of this initiative that you're launching, Ilsook, is it a different way of presenting the current product line, or will there be an addition of new products that will be part of it?
We're always launching additionally new products, but we're definitely thinking them in terms of sustainability, green, how they have less impact on the environment, how they help the environment, all kinds of ways.
Let's talk about showrooms and the physical spaces in which design is being presented, because it's obviously come up with all of your presentations, even yours. Design Within Reach from the beginning has not even used the term showroom. You call them studios. Why is that?
We call them studios because I think originally the idea of a showroom is that you go in there and you were not supposed to touch anything. You really felt there was an intimidation factor, or that design was something very high-end. And I think with our studios, it's education. Inside all the studios, there's timelines of designers, there's bios, there's histories of design. So it's a place where you can go, you can talk about design, you can meet other people who like design. We have events geared towards that. It's community. It's really a community of people who enjoy design, who like to talk about it, to share the whole experience of it. So it's not necessarily a sales place. It's not a showroom. It's a studio.
You mentioned in your presentation that you have 67 of them now, the most recent in Las Vegas. Is there any effort to make them contextual, to have them somehow relate to their local environment, or do they all look similar and have similar?
No, they don't. They actually take on the footprint of wherever they are. We really don't try to change it to have a similar feel. You can have a studio in Beverly Hills that looks completely different than our studio in Atlanta, and that's the way that we go in and really minimally affect or change the footprint of the store.
And where are you looking to open next?
I can't tell you.
Can you
Stay tuned.
But can you tell me something about the type of environment, college towns, or the fact that it's Las Vegas? What took so long to go there?
Well, Las Vegas is our second location there. So, we're always looking for, our first market is always very urban markets, and now we're looking to expand beyond the U.S.
Oh, but you can't tell me where.
No.
You can't tell me And that you opened, Maharam opened in conjunction with Moroso, the Italian furniture company, with Moss, that quaint little emporium down in Soho. How's that going?
It's, as I said, for us, this is a learning experience, and I think it's going very well. What we want is really that people interact with our textiles, so we're quite proud that we are sort of connected to Moss, but it's please touch. So, and when we go there, the customers really do, and they get fascinated with the textiles. One of the things that you struggle with when you're in the textile business, and even if you interact with a designer, is that they often have a hard time imagining what the textile will look like in a larger piece. So they usually have a sample that's about, a little smaller than a 8.5 by 11 size, and that's their reference tool. And nowadays we also have products that have huge repeats. So it is a bit of a challenge, and it takes a stretch of the imagination to see what it will look like in actuality. So having a wall with large textile pieces there gives us the opportunity to show the beauty of a textile, gives us the ability to interact, and we have created some sales. We feel a little bit like pioneers, so we didn't expect that, the cash register would start ringing day one. So I think because it requires a little bit of a mind shift on how you go about selecting textiles for your home, it won't happen overnight. But we want to provide the opportunity to the consumer to do that.
Will you put the bags in that show? And I almost said show. Will you put the bags in that store?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and others hopefully.
And in terms of the real showrooms, What's going to happen to them? Just in general.
We started out with a lot of showrooms all over the country, and we have a very large sales force, and we were trying to provide homes for almost every single one of them. And then we realized that it's a challenge to maintain a space that is really only inhabited by 2 to 3 people. So we recently shifted to a concept that we call regional hubs. So we have large areas of the United States that are supported by a larger major showroom. And actually all our spaces have been designed by one architectural company in the past 10 years. And it's very small company from New York City called Fernan & Logan. So we have a very consistent identity. They don't look the same, but they follow a certain template, visual template, and they combine certain elements that we think are key. So most of our salespeople spend all their day going to see the client. The client doesn't necessarily come to us, but it's still important to have a space where they can come and interact and see larger pieces. So,
Michael, in your ideal dreams, would the showroom just disappear? Would the merchandise mart just dissolve and there'd be a nice big building space in the Chicago River?
At Neocon, definitely.
Could go away.
No, I think showrooms are very valuable. And in fact, we're talking about certain markets for doing something like kind of a showroom, but like we're saying here, it functions as a distribution hub as well. I think it's very important. And I think lots of times designers want to get out of their studio, and it's good if you can be in a location where you have other materials around. The mart's really good in the fact that if you're looking for textiles or carpet or furniture, you have a lot of options, and you can try everything out, and that's important to try it out, I think.
Right now, of course, those spaces are still about the commercial world, but we've also been talking about, and this is the case with Design Within Reach, the consumer world coming into it. I mean, do you foresee a redefinition of the showroom as a space where the business clients and the consumers will be mixing and mingling? Is the showroom ripe for a redefinition if it isn't just going to be, zapped out of existence?
That's a really heady question.
You don't have to answer it. For those of you who've had a chance to, or anybody can if you want to, I mean, do you think about just completely redefining that space where products are displayed and where, the customer's representative, the decorator, is meeting the manufacturer? I mean, this is the nexus. It's the physical environment where people do get together.
I think we have done that by the way we approach how we show products. But it is important to have a physical space where you can represent not only your products but also your company. So I don't think the showroom will go away.
I have a lot more questions, but I actually want to open up the floor. Are there any questions from out there? And if you just want to raise your hand. Let me just throw one out while you think of them, and the opportunity is there. Standing right there with the microphone. For a magazine editor who gets tons of samples still all the time, what should I do with them?
Recycle them.
You can send them back if you don't like them. What we do with samples that of discontinued product, we usually donate them to design schools, we donate them to kindergartens. We don't throw them away. Actually, the Association of Contract Textiles had a system in place where designers could return unused samples, then they would be collected at a central location and then redistributed to the different manufacturers. But what we realized happened was that usually what you would get back is a discontinued product. So in a way, you created this whole system of traveling trash. So, so we now encourage recycling on a local level, and we're very much in favor of that. And some designers do return samples. So out of those 2.5 million samples that we put out there every year, a few get returned. So,
I fully expected somebody to tell me to make a dress. Any questions? I want to talk just for a minute about the exhibition. And those of you who've had a chance to see it, did anything jump out at you that gave you new ideas? Or just made you want to just pick it up and take it home?
It's a little bit sad because when you look at those sample books that have this beautiful handmade quality that we have lost today, because our sampling process works at such a large scale that I wouldn't say it's industrial manufacturing, but it works, the consistency that requires works more or less at that level. But there's a real beauty to the hand-cut sample and the care that's taken to the framing, and I can really definitely appreciate that. And you can see that the salesperson carried this beautiful book around for a very long time and showed it to the customer, so.
I like the plate that has everything they can possibly do printed on it. I just think that's really cool. I can imagine it wouldn't work for fashion very well, but their plate is a pretty good idea.
I was really struck by the pre-paper samples, the stuff that was done on fabric or papyrus. I mean, that it seemed like there would be fantastic ideas now for people who are really concerned about sustainability to just, come up with, concepts for samples. I know this is totally unworkable, but they really would have such durability and beauty, you wouldn't want to discard them.
We do have one question. I think after this, because it's a shy audience, we do have a reception upstairs. So after this one question, I'll encourage you to ask your questions in a more informal setting upstairs with wine and refreshments.
I better make this a good one then. When I think of samples, oftentimes it's the first point of contact between the customer and the product, or the first experience with the company. And I'm wondering if you do anything to capture that unique moment, because if one of your challenges, is to understand your customer better.
Is that a question for me?
For all of you.
Okay. Actually, our selling process is really very much a personal selling process. There's a lot of interaction with the salesperson, consulting, advice about how the product should be used. So there's a lot of personal relationships, and very often the sample gets dropped off personally. There's always a time that the designer wants the sample by. It could be today, or our standard delivery is 2 days. So, and that it really depends on the designer's needs. But there is a lot of personal interaction in the selling process.
I think within our studios it's the same. You can order a sample through the phone center, but I think majority of the samples are through the studios, and they're the studio executives. Most of them are designers. There's a lot of interaction between the customer and the studio, the account executive. So it's not just here you go, here's a red thing. There's a lot of communication back and forth, an explanation on the product, on the material itself.
I'm just curious about customers when they experience it. Does that flow get back?
The question was that
feedback, or
whether the way that customers experience it, whether that feedback gets back to the manufacturer.
Certainly. We certainly get to know if they like it or don't like it. Yeah. I mean, designers are vocal people, and they have opinions, and we will certainly hear those opinions.
I think that's a very good question, because you're really talking about part of a brand experience for a company. And lots of times we have found that the way our customers use us in that experience is based on speed. So the faster they can get the sample to their customer, the better brand experience they have, and actually the happier the salesperson is. And that's where we get the most feedback from. So we get these great emails from salespeople that are so happy that they could beat the competitor salesperson to the door.
Well, I'm going to have to stop there, but I really want to thank our panelists, Michael Hendrix of Tricycle, Annette Schaich of Maharam. I'm never going to be able to say her name again. And Ilsook from Design Within Reach. Thank you so much. And thank you, Cooper-Hewitt.